Hi, Whiskey Ringers. I hope you're all well and enjoying the podcast. As always, I welcome any thoughts, suggestions, and feedback you have to make the podcast better, and of course, any suggestions you have for guests you'd like to see. I wanted to share with you a new way to participate in the Whiskey Ring Podcast Bottle Share Club. There are several people who have reached out to me about being put on a waiting list for the top tier. After much thought, I've decided to open that tier up to more people. If you have been hesitating, or if you are a current supporter wanting to level up, reach out to me at david@whiskeyinmyweddingring.com or through social media or Patreon, and I'll be happy to help you move up. I also wanted to send a special thanks to my current $25 a month patrons who have agreed not only to this change, but who have been truly irreplaceable supporters of this and who make this podcast happen. Thank you to all of you in no particular order. I'm talking to you, Ken, Jesse, Jim, and Bill, Don and John, Yana, Connor, Zach, Scott, Ollie, Steve, and Jake. Without your support, this podcast wouldn't be happening anymore. And thank you for helping me to keep the lights on and keep guests coming to you every week. As always, you could support the podcast for as little as $1 a month, with ad-free episodes starting at $5 a month. This support is the reason the lights stay on, and to make sure the podcast and website are the best they can be. Thank you to all who are already patrons, and I hope to have more listeners join soon. Visit patreon.com/whiskeyinmyweddingring to join today. Without further ado, here's a new episode of the Whiskey Ring Podcast. Hey folks, welcome to a new episode of the Whiskey Ring Podcast. Today we are going up to one of my favorite places here in New York, up the Hudson Valley, to talk about Hudson House Distillery. Joining me to talk about it is Charles Ferri. He's the co-founder and CEO. I got to meet him in person a few weeks ago, and we've been chatting ever since. So, Charles, welcome on.
Hey, man. Good to see you. How's it going?
Doing well, doing well. Happy to have you on, talk about another New York distillery, another Hudson Valley distillery at that, and one doing Empire Rye. So, lots
That's awesome.
to
It's
talk
kind of
about.
funny when it's so weird how, sometimes people meet and, maybe it's meant to be, but I literally was getting people ready for a tour and I saw you with your shirt on. I go, hey man, do you have a podcast? And it rolled from there as you were taking the tour with me. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I was trying to I thought about going in kind of incognito like I do sometimes with tours, and I was like, I'm just gonna go in with it.
And you never know. Some people don't notice shirts. I tend to try to notice it. Some people are like oblivious, but no, you caught my attention. I said, you know what, this guy must know what he's drinking. So I like to talk to people like you and actually taste people like yourself because it helps us understand where we are. Are we on the right path? Did the right people enjoy what we're doing? So it's it's important, I think.
Absolutely. So, as I said, this is a location up the Hudson Valley. It's about an hour and a half north of New York City, and it's really just a breathtaking view. The pictures on the website do it some justice, just to give you a sense of it, especially the aerial views. I love those. There's one, I think, an aerial view from over the river that covers the deck that is great. So you've got an incredible building right on the Hudson River, across from the Vanderbilt Mansion on the other side. But this location in itself has a story to tell. And I wanted to give you free rein to just talk about the history of the site and the building.
Yeah, and you touched on a great point. I mean, the pictures, this property is really breathtaking. It's stunning. I call it magical, just to be there. It shocks me that we are there and we are open because, to be honest with you, I really shouldn't be meeting you right now. I shouldn't be talking to you. We probably should have failed long ago. And it was a really long, painful journey. I call it, there was the 6 years of hell, truthfully, when we first acquired the property and to get this place open to the public. And it was the darkest days of my life, to be honest with you. It was really, really a rough road. But I want to maybe take a little bit step further back to see, like, how did this happen? Like, how was this even born? How was Hudson House Distillery born? And a little bit about myself. And am I crazy? Am I not? Who knows? Sometimes you think you're crazy until something comes to fruition, and then people think you're a genius. They're like, "Oh, it's amazing," and they don't realize the pain that sometimes people have to go through to create their dreams. And so for me personally, I grew up in the area. I was from Dutchess County, which is across where the property is in Ulster County, and grew up in a very modest household, didn't have a lot growing up. And, I was always a little bit jealous of why people had big homes and cars and all these things. And, you're impressionable as a young person. That's just the way it is. But that's life. And so as I was growing up, went to a state college, University of Buffalo, and went into marketing and finance. Upon graduating, really not knowing, you're young, what the hell am I going to do for my life? But everyone expects you to know what you should be, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to be? Your whole life, it's always about what are you going to be? And I think we're all still figuring our lives out, right? But we're supposed to know at a young age. And my sister, who was older, she went to Albany, another state school. She had a job on Wall Street, and she was making money. And I was actually shocked. I'm like, my sister's making money? I mean, are you kidding? My sister? It's just kind of funny. So I said, well, if she's making money down on Wall Street, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to take over the universe. And and so I did. I followed in her footsteps, went down to Wall Street, and ended up working for the next 8 years of my life for two financial institutions. And I always tell people this, there's always something in your life that maybe you wanted to achieve, a dream or aspiration, and maybe you had this idea of what you'd feel like or be like or what you'd buy or whatever it is if you did achieve whatever you wanted. And maybe it wasn't what you thought it was about. I'm sure everyone has a similar situation in their own lives where it wasn't really what you thought it was. And I was 8 years out of college. I had a house in the Hamptons. I had a brownstone in Hell's Kitchen. I had cars. I was flying in private jets to Monaco around the world. And we were the ultra high net worth division of the bank, managing $100 million and up. So it was something very I was not accustomed to for my life, that's for sure. But I was playing a good part and playing a good role. And I was really more depressed than any point in my life. It was a really challenging time. I was really questioning myself. There's something wrong with me. Why am I not happy? I have all these things. I'm gallivanting around with the rich and famous. I mean, I should be excited. I should be loving life. And as the years went by, it started wearing on me. It was really difficult and confusing for me that I should shut my mouth, do my job, and love this life, right? And um, and I think that what really put me over the edge was September 11th, when I was living down there and living through that very challenging time. It's still, ingrained in my head, but I still can smell that burning essence, the burningness of what was going on with the planes going to the towers. And the sirens, and it was just so surreal that we're living through this, and no one really knew what was going on. But me being a good worker bee at the time, I threw my suit on, and here I was running cross town. So I worked on Park Avenue, Midtown. Thankfully, I wasn't downtown, and so it was an all hands on deck. Every banker had to get to an office, no matter where your office was. Or if you couldn't go downtown, you got to go to a midtown office, wherever. Get to an office. And we got in the office, and the phones are ringing. People are, scurrying around, and no one, again, doesn't know really what's truthfully going on. And we start answering our phone calls. And I feel like the saddest day for humanity that I went through. It was people screaming at us, where was their money? Where's my money? I want a fax copy of all my stocks and everything, my bonds, everything. You fax it to me immediately. And it was money managers, it was lawyers, it was accountants, it was you people were managing money for others, and they were calling us frantic. And it was so jarring to go through that see humans act in such a self-interested manner that they just didn't care about anything else that was going on. And I took it, it angered me a little bit, as I was calling up, dealing with these phone calls. And it's a couple of times I snapped and I said, you know what, we're doing okay. And it would kind of like shock them. They're like, oh yeah, yeah. How is everyone, by the way? But they were just so into their own world and what their own money and their things. And even with the death and destruction that was going on, they just didn't care. And I think that really opened my mind, that a lot of people don't give a shit about you, me, or anyone else. Very self-serving. A lot of people are a lot of self-serving people, and and it was sad to me. It was a very sad situation for me to see humans acting this way, but it also made me realize that that was not the world for me. I guess I was too nice. I mean, I'd be a horrible, super wealthy person. I'd probably be too kind and giving to other people, which I think is something we all should be doing really to help others. And it really got my mind thinking of what else I could do. Who was I? What do I want to do? What do I want to be in my life? And I never really thought about that. I just did kind of what I was told. And it took me a year and a half more later to get the courage to say, I just can't do it anymore. And I walked in one day and I said, I'm quitting. And I had no plan. I really didn't. I had no plan. I said, I just got to get out. And it was, boy, that was incredibly challenging. I was called crazy. You're out of your mind. Wait, take a sabbatical. Something's wrong with you. Even my mother said, you're going to ruin your life. What are you doing? What are you, crazy? You're going to give up this life, and it's tough. It's tough for, I'm sure, parents to see their kids, going off to maybe do whatever. Are they crazy? Are they going to lose everything in their lives and be a loser? I think there's a lot of pressure on us in society to all be successful and all be the same and, do the same things. I can't tell people, enough that life goes by so fast to go out there and just try to find what you love to do. It's scary how fast it goes. It's even scary. I have two young kids, and I see the days go freaking back. They're getting bigger and bigger. I'm like, that means I'm getting older and older. That is really scary. And so I quit because my thought was, and luckily I was very observant as a young person and watching older people and see how they act and react to things. And what I noticed was typically when people get older in life, they get more risk averse. They're scary of the future because they don't want to start the life over, right? It makes a lot of sense. They don't want to have to start a new job at like an older age, right? They want to keep the money they've had. They worked so hard for all this stuff, right? And it makes a lot of sense. And so my thought was, well, we're only young once. And I'm young once, and this is where I was. I was still a young guy, and I had no family, had no kids, no major obligations like that. And so I felt like now was the time to really if you're gonna go for something, if you're gonna take a shot at life, that was the time because we would have clients that come into meetings and they had hundreds of millions of dollars, like insane, and they'd be like literally shaking, like thinking, "Oh my God, I'm so nervous. What's going to happen? Am I going to lose everything?" Like it was so interesting to see this. Now we're trying to, help them. You're going to be okay. It's okay. You could spend away. You're going to be fine. But it was an interesting. I felt a human trait that people get nervous for the future the older you get. And I said to myself, well, I might be that person. I might be very nervous of the future and scared and not want to change, right, my life. And so that was the time to take a shot. And so in reevaluating my life, I decided to sell these assets. I sold the house in the Hamptons that I had. I had a brownstone in Hell's Kitchen, the car, all these things. I kept the brownstone as my home, but I became very lean. Didn't want to have a lot of bills because obviously when you have a lot of bills, sometimes that takes over your life, right? And the bills control your life, and you have to do things you don't want to do to pay the bills. It's a natural thing. And I didn't want to have that overriding of me personally. And so when I was lean, I was like, okay, here I am. What the hell am I going to do the rest of my life? What do I love? What do I want to, be or aspire to or dream of? And the funny thing is, I like to drink and party, and that's what I did. I was drinking and partying in New York City. Manhattan was just in a very special time, as the early 2000s. What a magical place! Melting pot from people from around the world would come there, and I loved meeting people and talking to them, all walks of life. Didn't care who you were. I was just curious about people in general. And I loved it so much, the nightlife. I decided to get involved with hospitality in New York City. And decided to buy a lounge. It was actually a very infamous lounge on the famous Chelsea Hotel on 23rd Street, and had the basement of the Chelsea Hotel. And me and a couple of buddies of mine bought it, and it was pretty crazy to have this bar club, lounge in the basement. And here we were thrown into being business owners, small business owners with hospitality, and drinking, and obviously partying. But I had a love for spirits in general. It was something interesting to me because if I was in a sweet mood, I got it. A straight mood, I got it. A salty mood, I got it. A rocks mood, I got. It was just fabulous to be like to try these new things and to explore them. It was just fascinating. And I guess I'm just a very curious person in general. And through that, I grew from the lounge. I had a sports bar on the Upper East Side. I went back out to the Hamptons, owning the largest nightclub out there. And so it was like, wow, this is amazing. And a lot of celebrities, VIPs used to come to my places. And so I got a chance to meet these people and understand people's tastes. What do you like? What do you not like? So I got a broad spectrum of people, who they were, what they're all about, and what they likes, and pluses and minuses of things. So it was very interesting. And my thought was, well, okay, here I am. I'm growing these businesses. That's great. Okay. But, I'm just another human, truthfully. I really am. But I wanted to really be different and stand out. And my thought was, well, hmm, what if I created my own spirit, right? I have all these people that are coming. I have almost an unlimited amount of people that actually I could taste this spirit, and maybe they'll like it and buy or come back for more, right? So at the time, I was in love with vodka. Vodka was my thing. I love the vodka, the versatility of vodka, the simplicity of vodka. And I was like, okay, well, what if I created my own vodka company? And I utilize these venues to taste people. Do you like it? Do you not? And if you did like it, maybe they would come back for more, right? And then maybe in wherever they were, wherever they lived, they go to their local liquor store, and there was my vodka on the shelf. And they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, I know this guy. I love his vodka. And by me just meeting these people and tasting them, I could start a groundswell to sell a spirit line, a vodka company." And to me, it was so simple and basic because I met so many people. Why not, right? Well, how do you make vodka? How do you make any spirits? I had no freaking clue. None. I know how to drink them. That was about it. And it took me on this journey of okay, well, how do you make this stuff? What goes on with it? How can you be different in it? Why are they different? And what makes them some better than others, right? And so I always heard for many, many years, and I don't know if you are the same with when it comes to vodka. I've always heard that Russian vodka is the best. It has to be from Russia. They do it this way or that way, and it's the motherland of vodkas. And it always kind of
It's kind of
bothered me.
like, yeah, it's kind of like sorry to interrupt. It
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of like French wine before the Judgment of Paris kind of thing.
Hmm.
You could make it anywhere, but really like the French was the best, and maybe Italy if you're a little adventurous, but um yeah,
Correct.
kind of like that.
You nailed
With
it.
vodka, on the other hand, you you're looking for smoothness, I guess, and ease of drinking, but usually not flavor.
No, not at all. You see, it's called grain neutral, right? You're supposed to strip all the flavor out of it, right? It has a burn, a vodka burn. Some are a little bit smoother than others. Some might be a little tricky and put little additives in there to hide what their, the bite or whatnot from the consumer, which bothers me, but they do what they do. And so you nailed it. So I was tired of hearing about it. And the weird thing about, I feel, human nature is I feel like the more people hear the same thing over and over again, they just believe it as the truth. And it just drives me crazy that no one ever really truthfully does research. Some do, but the majority of people don't. And they're taking what they're hearing and they're saying, "Oh, well, so many people said it. It's got to be the truth." And I believe it too. Right. And I was just so sick and tired of hearing people because I would be like, "Well, why?" And they didn't want to hear that. Like, no, I heard, everyone knows it is. It's almost like they just discount you. Just shut your mouth, understand it, believe it, and that's it, and go on with your life, right? I'm sure we've heard many stories, even more so now, with just shut your mouth, do what you're told, believe this, and that's it. And that always bothered me. It really bothered me a lot that, you know, you should be able to ask the questions and expect an answer, an honest answer, and you decipher yourself what you think is the truth, right? And so I was sick of all the BS, and so I ended up going to Russia. And it sounds crazy, but I had friends that lived in Moscow at the time. This is about 20 years ago, a long time ago. Stunning city, beautiful Moscow. I mean, wow, what a place. But when I met my friends, I was like, hey, I want to see some distilleries. And they're like, huh? What? No, you don't. And I go, no, seriously, I want to go, I want to see what goes on here. I'm very curious about what goes on here. And they're like, well, no, they didn't want to do it. And I'm like, let's go. Cause it was outside. They want to be in the city with all the fun and, the clubs with, yeah, I get it. And so I made them drag me out there, and they're far away for a reason. These are mega factories, a mega. And it's kind of funny because I had like this little bit of fantasy of what it was like. I thought it'd be like these gorgeous models dancing around, and there's diamonds and gold everywhere, maybe gold-plated distilleries, and they're having like the best time and the best vodka ever. And life is so wonderful. And it couldn't have been further from the truth, truthfully. These were dirty factories. And I'm walking through and I am literally stunned. And I'm like, what? And they use the cheapest grains they could find, the cheapest. They're nearby. That's it to distill. The water was nothing special, nothing, no good story on it. They made stuff up. And so I was like, what are you doing? I don't understand. And I wasn't being condescending, but they kind of took it the wrong way. And I wasn't trying, obviously I'm in a foreign land. Yeah, I'm not trying to get myself killed. And they got annoyed. They go, oh, you Americans, we could piss in a bottle and you would drink it, think is the best thing ever. We don't have to do anything. And I was stunned, but it was actually one of the best lifelong lessons I could have ever have learned. I mean, people truly believe what they want to believe. They probably will never research things, and they want to listen to someone else tell them what to do or what to drink. And so I came back to the States and I was just shocked. But it was a great lifelong lesson, truthfully, of understanding people and humans. And so I came back here and I wanted this vodka to be made in this country. I love this country. I'm proud of it. I want to support the people in this country the best I possibly can. And so I found a distillery in Bend, Oregon that was willing to teach me this business. And with their help, I created a company called Star Vodka. So Star was born, big gold star, I put on the bottle. It was American-made glass. It was non-GMO corn, things that were really important to me. Learning about grains and things like that. I didn't know anything that was going on, but I realized, God, our country is decimated by genetically modified grains. What are we doing to ourselves? No one's talking about this. It was over 20 years ago, and it was scary. The more I started digging in, it was like, boy, opening Pandora's box of what was truly going on with our food systems and the grains. And so we were sourcing our grains from the Pacific Northwest, mostly up in Canada, where it was protected. So non-GMO corn, we were using water that was naturally filtered through the Cascade Mountains. It was lava rock. So lava rock's a natural biofilter. So it was filtering the water. It was this beautiful water. And we came out with this vodka, and it exploded. People loved this vodka. It was smooth. It was just beautiful. And they loved the American aspect of it, the American glass, focusing on important things. And so here I was growing it, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm tasting it. People loving it. Like, what is this? Is this a dream? What is going on here? Do I really know what I'm doing? And started, hand selling it in liquor stores, got distributors. I'm in states. And so I got enough information and enough growth to really kind of move on from the bars and nightclubs. They would at that point, they were hindering this growth. And my thought was, wow, I have a spirit. I could sell it anywhere in the world. How amazing is this? And I wasn't pigeonholed with one location or locations. And so I got out of all the bars and nightclubs to focus on growing this. This is where a point where I met my business partner, Paul Sears. And he was in the hospitality business, owned bars and nightclubs. He was, wanted to grow in that industry, wanted a hotel. And I was promoting Star Vodka events at his places. and we got to be very close. We got to talk to each other. I think we drank too much Star vodka together, truthfully. But we were brainstorming crazy ideas, a hotel with a distillery, and, could you put them together where people could explore and stay over and learn and drink. It sounds crazy. This is 20 years ago. I mean, now it's not so crazy, but it sounds kind of crazy, but we were just, out there open and free. And I really do think it was the cocktails. They were kind of opening us up to the, what if, right?
Well, like you said, this is also 20 years ago now, so this is the very cusp of the craft distilling movement. Craft beer has been going on for a couple of decades at that point, but I mean, 2003 to 5 is when you first get the inklings of the craft distilling movement in America.
Yes.
Of any spirit, not
Yes.
just whiskeys, but vodkas, gins, just the earliest folks playing in who hadn't been basically the St. George's, Clear Creek, or Germain Robins of the U.S. Those are the godfathers, if you will. So I am just curious how did you get connected with the distillery in Bend, and are they still operating?
So it was kind of like a little bit of luck. I started searching, and I was actually looking in New York State because I was like, proximity was easy for me. But like you had mentioned, that was just beginning, and no one really had the wherewithal of what was going on, right? New York State, I think Tuttletown was.
Yeah. I think they're the first. Like there was no
They
one
were the
distilling
first.
at that time.
They were kind of right there, I mean, maybe in the beginning stages, but so I was like, no one has anything nearby. I'd love to be in the Northeast. No one was helpful that was even outside the state. They were like, yeah, it was really like the beginning. And so it was kind of like, maybe this is like the wrong move. And so I started searching I started looking into water. I was like, all right, well, where is the best water? Where's an abundance of water? Because that makes the most sense for a distillery, right? You would need water, good water, right, to make sense. And to me, either the Northeast, New York State has phenomenal, great water. Obviously, Catskill water goes to New York City for the purity, things like that. But also in the Pacific Northwest, they had a lot of this purity of water. This world-renowned Cascade Mountain water was, and just doing Google searches, finding out more about it, like, this is very interesting over there. They got this water, it's melted from the mountain caps through lava rock, and I just started getting intrigued over it. And so again, I started just searching just through Google and finding different distilleries, and this distillery was the most open-minded. I think they're one of the earliest craft distilleries on the West Coast, really, truthfully. And they're like, hey, they were like so chill, and like, oh yeah, oh yeah, we could help you. I'm like, really? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but they were so nice to me, and like, they're open to it. Sure, let's try it. Guy from New York City, maybe it's going to help us. They probably thought, like, my connections as well, that, hey, maybe this could grow into something with him. So I think they maybe saw an opportunity as well with me. And so we started this journey. I started learning about it and getting more in depth into the grains and learning about that aspect and them teaching me. And so it was just fascinating. But, I guess just a kind of luck, a little bit of luck, but maybe it was meant to be. Maybe this was meant to happen. It was meant to happen over there first before I came back to the East Coast when things were kind of taking hold, right? And then so it's funny with life, and I'm sure, David, you have similar stories, but I always, for me personally, I just always feel like, when things are great, I just feel like something bad always happens, and I don't know why. It's like the universe, no one's going to have the perfect life. No one's going to have everything laid out for them, and I feel like everything is always a struggle, ups and downs, and good days and bad days, and years and bad years, and it's just, to me, it's so frustrating. You just, you feel like you're on top of the world, or you're having some things going so well, and then bam, you get whacked back down by the gods of the universe, just smack you back to earth, letting you know you are just immortal, right? And you have to learn to pick yourself back up. But, I hit a huge wall, and the wall was the distillery out in the West Coast got so busy with their own products, they couldn't meet my demand anymore. And I, at the time, it was like, it was upsetting. Like, what? Like, we can't get more product, and it's hard to get. And, it's on the West Coast, and I'm dealing with the West Coast to the East Coast. I'm trying to, rail product over. It became a logistic nightmare. And so I have distributors saying, where's your product? What's going on? And I couldn't really be as truthful as I wanted to be because, again, they're in the business to make money, right? Distributors want to get product and sell it. If it sells, they want more product, right? That's just how it is. Star Vodka was starting to take hold. It was selling. It was selling liquor stores. It was outselling other brands, which is shocking because we were so new. But in certain luxury markets, we were really doing well. And so, of course, I'm pissed, angry, bitter. Of course, this is happening to me now, but I'm also making up excuses. I'm saying, well, it's coming. The grains, we're having some issues here, and because I think if I said I couldn't make much more, and you have to wait, they would say, Charles, come on, move aside. Let the big boys play in this field. You need to move away. And so I didn't want to kind of play my show my cards, right? And so I had to, play a little bit of a game as unfortunately I had to, and string them along. But what that did was it put the light bulb in my head to start looking faster for my own location, right? This home. And as talking to Paul, is this, destination distillery idea, which sounds crazy, but it's like, a destination where you can go and see what we're making and learn and stay over. And it's crazy. It's 20 years ago. But it made a lot of sense to us. Like, why not? Like, let's figure this out. So that kind of pushed me to start looking faster. And that pushed us obviously to the Hudson Valley. I was from there. My parents are there. My parents never live in Rhinebeck, but I grew up in Hopewell Junction. So I knew that area very, very well. I knew there's an abundance of water, abundance of very good water, and a lot of history and a lot of proximity to New York City. So we had a lot of ability for people to come up and see it. New Jersey, New York, Boston, Mass, Albany, a lot of areas are very, very close, with a close proximity to come. So it all made a lot of sense. And also I had more courage at this point in time to start doing this, right? It's a risky maneuver, as you know, a very risky business to be in, capital intensive. You need to know a lot about many aspects of business, especially, marketing, PR, branding, grain production, distillation. The list is massive. If you really do not have the confidence and wherewithal of what you are doing, you will get your butt kicked and be out of business very, very fast. And I knew that through banking. I knew risk analysis, risk reward. I was not prepared to do it the years prior, but at this point in time, I was pushed forward. It was now or never. I was either going to find something and do something, or my life was going to change once again to do something, maybe go back to finance, unfortunately, but no one has the perfect past written out for them. And maybe it's not going to work out for me. Maybe it wasn't, maybe I was on the wrong path in life. And sometimes we are. Sometimes we think we're convinced we're doing the right thing in our lives, and maybe we're just not. And that's a hard thing to accept. It's a hard thing to deal with, right? You don't want to be, realize that maybe you're on the wrong path in your life. No one wants to do that. And that's a tough, gut-wrenching thing to go through. And so started searching and searching and searching and searching. And 3 years of my life go by like that as we were searching for this unicorn property, iconic property. But, it wasn't a unicorn property. It was, we thought we'd have these rolling hills and beautiful fields, and it had to have some kind of beauty to it, something that would resonate with people, that they'd want to be there and they'd want to come see it. And I never thought we would have this property that we have now, truthfully. It was never even a thought process. I never thought we'd be even on water. Although I'm a Pisces and I love water, right? I thrive for water. This is almost too good to be true. So 3 years go by, and I've gotten married along the way. The pressure builds, right? When you get married, what are you going to do, buddy? What's going on with your life, right? You can't fumble through your life. You get some vodka product in, it sells out, and you're basically fumbling around. So I couldn't grow the business. So basically I was almost like flatline the business. I'm like gasping for air. You get product, you sell it, you gasp. You get product, you sell it, you can't grow. You've invested all this money in this product, you just can't grow. And so it's a scary thing to go through. And a lot of people would probably give up. And they would say, you know what, it ain't working. Let's cut it. I'm out. And somebody just kept me in the game for some reason. And Paul and I kind of worked off each other. We really, if I was on a bad day, he was on a good day. We really were thriving off each other, to fueling each other to keep pushing forward. And one fateful day, We had a land attorney in Kingston. This guy was awesome. Love this guy. And he had a wealthy developer from New York City who bought a waterfront property actually 2 miles from ours. And it was in Ulster County. I wasn't familiar with that area. I'm familiar with Dutchess County, which is where I was from, where we spent most of our time searching. And this guy had a Hollywood producer father, a lot of backing, a lot of money. He bought a waterfront property, an old manor about 2 miles north. Beautiful old manor. Nothing as stunning like ours, but it was a beautiful old manor on the river, on the Hudson River, direct views of the Vanderbilt Mansion. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was almost too good to be true. He sets up a meeting. Now, this guy was going to do a farm-to-table restaurant and an inn. So we had that hotel component. And our attorney was like, hey, if you guys could cut a deal with this guy, you do the distillery, you got the inn, farm-to-table restaurant, and my wife is a wedding planner and designer. She could do weddings on a waterfront property. And I was honestly like, gods of the universe, I am not worthy. I am not what? I'm not worthy for this. Do I deserve this? What? I don't deserve this, do I? Or maybe, I don't know. And so we set up a meeting. So my wife and I went up there one fateful day to meet him. And, he's a cocky guy. He was affluent. He had a lot going for him. And who was I? Who was this guy showing up to this meeting, to try to do a distillery? And I don't think he fully understand the concept of what we were trying to do. We were going back and forth. End of the meeting, I was just like, how can we work together? This would be amazing. How can we do this? And he bluntly said, I think this is crazy. It's not going to work. I think it's, I don't know what you're doing with the booze element of it. I know the business. I know the trends. I'm in it. But I wish you the best of luck. And my jaw, first I thought he was kidding. Like, what? And he's like, I wish you the best of luck. I got to get back to work. And he just turned his back and walked away. My wife was there and he just crushed me. I mean, I was mortified. I was embarrassed. All these ideas I'd shared with my wife and all these friends, and I mean, I would look like a fool. I really did, and I was just stunned. Went back to the car, and I think the fury and anger of my life not working for me. I was just like, F this guy, screw him. Who does he think he is? Give me a break. But you know what it was? It was a defense mechanism, really, truthfully for me. It was, I was projecting the anger of my life that was not working for me onto this guy. And that was not nice, but I was just so angry. Didn't want it to be about me. It had to be his fault, right? What does he know? And so we turned the car around, we head back, and she had noticed this property on the way up. It sat for 15 years. It was a vacant old monastery. And it looked crumbling. And David, you saw the pictures, the before and afters. It was pretty bad. Yeah. And it was sitting there waiting for this right magical moment. She forced me to stop the car. I was like, I want to go home. I was so angry. I was just done with everything in life. And she forced me to stop the car, and I was gated. We snuck down. It was all overgrown because you could kind of see the river below, but I really didn't understand wherewithal where I was, what this was. There was no signage. It was yellow with a big red brick building in the back. And we're peeking. It's crumbling inside. It looks like a mess. And she goes, we should call someone. It looks abandoned. Maybe they'll sell it to us. And I go, are you nuts? What are you talking about? Sell what? No one cares about this. Obviously, it's crumbling. If it was going to be sold, it would have been sold. But I was angry and bitter of what just happened to me, and I poo-pooed her. And back to the city we went. That was it. And honestly, that should have been it. The story should be over. But weirdly enough, I got up in the morning. The next morning, I was just so beside myself of what happened. I was really contemplating my next move in life. What do I do? Where should I go? Do I go back to finance? Something has got to give with my life because it's not going anywhere. And it's so weird with timing in life where sometimes you couldn't have the worst timing ever, right? But sometimes you couldn't have asked for the better timing, a perfect timing. The universe aligns for these weird moments. I got up it was probably 5 or 6 in the morning. She's sleeping. I was just, what am I going to do? Bitter and angry. And I got on my computer. And the weirdest thing is this, I got on Zillow, and I don't know why. I still don't know why to this day, why Zillow is a residential site. What am I doing? I got on Zillow and I was doing these radius searches. We could do like a radius around an area. I was doing a radius around the Hudson Valley, and boom, one of the pictures popped up was the monastery. It was the yellow building, which stood out to me. I was like, what? So I click on it. It says it's a 100-year-old monastery on 27 acres on the Hudson River, about 27,000 square feet for $550,000. And I was like, what? Is it is it a misprint? Is it 5.5 million? 550,000? What? So I ran to my bedroom with my laptop. I go, it's for sale. What? And she's like, we were just there. I go, I know we were there and it's for sale. It just almost doesn't make sense, but does it? And we rushed back up here, and immediately we're like, what are we doing now? It was a bidding war. Someone with money, why not just buy it? And so we were under a lot of pressure to like, are we going to get this? Are we going to do this or not? Now, there's a lot of problems with this old building. It was an old building that sat for 15 years. Now, how weird is this? That it took 15 years for the Vatican was involved as well to figure out the subdivision, how it should be subdivided from the other monastery property. And in this moment, it was on the market for 3 days from what I saw it. Why? Why was it at that moment for me to drive by it, to then get on my computer, my wife, the whole thing? Why? I still don't know why, but here we are. And under a lot of pressure, we had to move quickly. It had no zoning, didn't have the zoning to do what we needed. And so we went to the town of Esopus. They're very receptive. They're like, what? You're going to do what here? We never heard of something like this. And I think we were very naive. We had big dreams, big ideas, but were we equipped to do something like this? No, not at all. But it was a dream. It was an idea. It just, man, we just kept thinking, if we could just get this place open, this is going to be something that is magical and truly special. And no one has ever done something that I can see in the nation, really, in the country. And even you go to Europe to find things like this. And make a long story short, the town of Esopus, they're like, we would love to help you, but we can't. The governor does. They need to change the zoning because you're on the Hudson River. And at the time, Governor Cuomo was in the office, and something miraculous happened because I had no confidence in government at all. Truthfully, I said, no way, this ain't gonna happen. No way. They're not gonna give a shit about this. But they did. His administration thought this project would change the region, and they changed the zoning in 6 weeks, which is unheard of. But they thought this really would open this up to something so unique and different for people from around the world, which I agree with. And change the zoning, we secure the property against everyone else. And I will say this, everyone else bidding on this property against us was going to level it, knock this thing down. It's way cheaper to build your own McMansion or house or whatever you're going to do, way cheaper than to try to rehab this old iconic building. And honestly, for the building's sake, I would have been so saddened if we did not even get it. If we didn't get it, this building, just the history, everything about it, the essence, the spirits inside would be gone. And there are spirits inside, that's for sure. I never was a believer, but I am a believer now, that's for sure. But we secured the property. And then, David, like I said before, this brought us to the 6 years of pure hell. We were hit with the unelected officials, the government bureaucracy took over, the red tape. It was just an awful experience. There were cheerleaders and people helping us along the way, but a lot of times when bureaucracy gets in the way, it's so hard to get through it. And I think a lot of people give up on projects by all this nonsense that goes on. It does not help communities. It doesn't help the people, and they give up. And they give up their dreams and ideas because of this crap that goes on. It's very sad, or the challenges. And so we were grinding, and we persevered day in and day out. And it was such a horrible, painful experience. But something just kept us there, and it was that building. The beauty of that building kept us there. They kept pushing us to say, we just got to get open. We got to get open. And we were even liquidating retirement monies at one point in time. And that is insane because when I look back on it, if this failed, we have wrecked our lives. And we've taken our families down with it. Now that is scary. And I look back, I'm like, man, I can't believe we did this. We went through this because we would have been ruined. But it was just, we were enamored, we were in love, and we just kept pushing, and we didn't accept no for an answer. And here we are now. We had to do so much infrastructure and so much work that we couldn't get the hotel open. We got approved for a 25-room boutique hotel, a restaurant and bar, which we have open. We have a 4,000 square foot deck, as you saw, on the river, one of the largest decks on the Hudson River. Craft distillery in the cellar of an old monastery, which is pretty amazing. And we also have an event space, which we made the first floor of the monastery into our indoor event space. So we're doing year-round weddings and events. And like I said, I keep saying magical. It is truly incredible property to see, and to see people come in there and look around in awe that they cannot believe what this property is. People from all around the world have come to see this place, from Japan to every state in this country. I'm just so thankful. I'm so happy that we have pushed through this to have this property and have the building still there for everyone to enjoy. And that really leads us into making world-class spirits, which I think we are doing. And we can get into that next. But I know it was a long story, and I appreciate that because I know you went through it. We do a lot of tours on site, and it's a story that I'm shocked that I lived through. It's me. It really kind of shocks me that this is part of my life, because as I know, probably more than others, that there is a fine line between success and utter failure. It's really sometimes a crapshoot. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes a little more perseverance to push you over the edge. And it's scary and amazing. And here we are. And I couldn't be more ecstatic to share this property and our spirits with everyone. With that being said, man, we should be drinking some booze right now, right? That was a long story. So
I'm starting with the New York Straight Rye.
Yes.
The Black Creek rye, which I personally love. I do love both the bourbon and the rye, but the rye for me takes it just because I like an herbal rye, like a high rye kind of,
yeah,
a lot of herbs and a little more savory than super sweet. And to me, this just has a lot of black licorice is a little too strong, so maybe like a little anisette kind of thing.
Yeah,
some tarragon, some blackberries, some very berrylicious, yeah, let's say berrylicious kind of flavors to it. It's not so high proof that I need kind of something to warm me up for it. So to me, this is just a great sipper. And so I did want to just jump back quickly to the building itself. So like you said, I got to see some of the photos of the renovations, and they were just it's really hard to describe, honestly. I mean, there's gut renovations, and then there's gut renovations where you have to save so many of the parts of what you're having to take out, which it was effectively like restoring an historical site without the designation in a lot of ways. It really looked like that. And the point that I wanted to really pull out there was thinking about the zoning. And I know that's something that seems very boring to people. They're like, why would he be interested in the zoning? Because think about this. So we're in New York State, which I love my state too. Very, very proud of it. But we have a ton of bureaucracy here, just all over the place. And there's a reason that most of the distilleries in the state, despite us having a lot of distilleries, because we have a craft law, like I said earlier, Tuttletown being an early one in the craft movement, we kind of vie with California and Texas for who has the most distilleries by state in any given year. So we've got a lot, but there's a reason that a lot of them are in either urban settings. So they're in industrial zones along the rivers, and I think about Kings County and the Navy Yards or Van Brunt, places like that, or they're in super rural spaces. So they're in a farm, they're by the Finger Lakes, far from the big city, where it's mainly farms, a little bit of tourism, agritourism. And the reason for that is because if you want to put in one building, which this is, it's a large building, it's one building, a distillery, So you need the distilling license, you need the industrial zoning for that, the food and beverage licensing, plus the food and beverage space that you need for that, the indoor event planning. You're also, like I said, you're on the river, you're on a cliff above the river, you're next to a major freight line, which can't be impeded, of course. And you also wanted to do the hotel. So that's another level of zoning, all in one building. And I know there are a couple of other distilleries around the country, just a couple, really just a handful, that are doing this alco tourism or beverage tourism, where you get to stay overnight. You can really experience the farm and the distillery, but they're very few and far between, because it's so difficult to
They're not on
get
water.
permissions, and they're not on water.
And water. Yeah.
Yeah, and add water. So I just wanted to underscore just how difficult that is to get, and then how difficult it must have been to get permitting and zoning rights for all of those factors into one. And when you say 6 years of hell, I believe it, because it almost seems like not enough time in a way. I would almost expect it to be a little longer.
Actually, you say that, a lot of people say to me, developers say, you got 6, it should be
Right?
10. You're lucky it wasn't 10. Yeah.
Exactly. Unless, but to think though, if other people had won the property and just leveled it and started over, within what, a couple months, probably they would have had a new property, new building up there, and
Yeah.
no problem at all.
No problem at all. Yeah. And yeah, it's I guess when I think back on it, because you lived through all this stuff, and my wife did the interior design, her and her sister. So we didn't have the money to have these, hire these high-end architects to do renderings and, oh, look at your rooms and how pretty, and you're gonna waltz in there and visualize it. We didn't have the money for that. So like literally, it was a design build. And we had a local contractor, Baxter. The family is amazing, and they invested in the property. They believed in it, but it was hell for everyone, because sometimes you need an architect to really put this all together. We didn't, so we had to be like the architect, the engineers. We were involved with every aspect of this building. Where are you running ductwork? We were involved with every meeting. They're like, what? Like, what are you guys doing here? But like, we know everything. I mean, when I say everything about this building, the piping, the fire suppression, where things go. I mean, Paul and myself, this is during COVID, we got the equipment finally in there. We spent 3 weeks together putting it together. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. We had no idea what we were doing. I was on a 20-foot scaffold trying to put pipes together on our copper columns. I mean, it was crazy. During COVID, we're there alone in this cellar. How do we do this? We learned everything. We were thrust into a lot of things because we didn't have all this money to spend. So we really had to learn about this. And to be honest, I'm so happy because, man, what an education we have learned through all these aspects. But looking back, the fighting with my wife was horrible. I mean, we're fighting over every little thing, and Paul was the lucky one. He got to go home to a different house, and it was quiet, and it was nothing. I went home, and it never ended. It was fighting over this and that, and what the budgets. We don't have the money for this. We don't have the money for that. The money's gone now. We have to get more money. We brought investors in who believed in what we were doing, and luckily they came on board at the opportune times. Different series of investments to come in here to really help catapult this to where it is, or else it would never have happened. So all these things weirdly came together at really the perfect moments, or else we'd be done. There was moments where we really looked at each other and we're like, I think we're done. I think it's over. And something happened where it was like someone came in or someone helped us at their last moment to keep us there. It's so weird when I think about this. It's just so weird that it was almost meant to be. It really is. Something really was guiding us. It was so strange to me when I look back. And when I do say, David, naive, if we weren't so naive, we would have given up. I think many years ago, it would not have gone through this. I think that you see a lot of these developers and people who have experience, when things don't go their way, they immediately cut and run, move on, cut it and run. I think we fell in love. And sometimes it's not a good thing, right? You won't want to fall in love with the wrong things. We fell in love with the right thing. And that love pushed us through to get this place open. Now, hopefully the hotel's coming sooner or later. Well, I would say a couple of years. COVID just killed us with just all the monies we have to just sink into this property. But it is really just a beautiful place. I love just being there. It has an aura too about it. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, and they're like, "Has such a beautiful feel while I'm here, a feeling." And that's very unique. It's very interesting. Thankfully it's not a haunted feeling that we'd be in trouble, but it's a pleasant feeling. It's very interesting. It's very special.
So I wanted to just jump into the whiskeys here and spirits. And we should say before, because I know that we're usually a whiskey podcast, a couple other spirits here and there. So without jumping over it, I do want to also mention you have now it's no longer Star Vodka, but you have your own brand made here, Altair Vodka, which I'll be honest, I'm not a vodka drinker myself, but what I will say is number one, I tried it, so I'm not talking out of my ass here. It had the smoothness you're looking for in it, and it was not devoid of flavor, which for a vodka, I mean, that's basically what I'm looking for. Like, I never drink vodka straight, to be honest, unless I'm tasting something.
You wouldn't want to,
right? Or unless I need to clear my palate for something. That's what I use it for usually. But it did have a nice sweetness to it, and I had it in a cocktail as well, so it really did work there. But with the whiskey, so when I was on the tour, went downstairs into the distillery, and immediately, and there's a picture of these on the website too, the Cote stills, these German design stills. And I'm curious because you're saying that you were putting these pipes together yourself. You got the equipment in. This is happening during COVID. So there's also not a lot of, even if there are people willing to help, there's not a lot of people who are able to help on site, let's say, or willing to risk it at that point. Normally I ask a question like, who did you look to for inspiration on this to figure out how to design something, to figure out the profile? But in this case, it really sounds like you needed to just figure it out yourself. So I'll amend that question into, were there people around who were willing to help or able to help, but either were able to help or couldn't, but tried to during your setup phase for the distillery?
So Gable Lorenzo, which is the son of Ralph Lorenzo, the founder of Tuttletown, and they sold the company to William Grant and Sons. Gable was on board as a consultant to help us through these times as far as when it came to distillery. Obviously, he had the wherewithal. Great guy, I mean, amazing person. We really just hit it off together, and we really wanted to bring him in as our chief distiller. So the plan was he was our chief distiller through this process, and we started really, I think, 2 years. We were 4 years into the project when we were getting closer to maybe getting open. It was 2 years before we got open officially. We actually engaged him, got him. He fell in love with the project. Oh my gosh, he thought this was amazing. And I think this is amazing for him personally because he was always beneath his father, and his father's like the grandfather of New York State whiskey, right? I mean, sure. He is a legend. Ralph is a true legend of New York State. And I think that this was going to be his coming out moment for him. He was going to be really recognized as a chief distiller at the Hudson House Distillery, this iconic place. There's nothing like it. And we spent a long time together, and he was designing it with us, working through it, where these things go. And so we learned from him. He was really our confidant of where things could go and whatnot. And as we're leading through, right before, so he helped us a little bit, but with the installation, Paul and I were really kind of through COVID, everything's just a mess. And so him and I really spent most of the time together. Gable would come again. We were really printing pictures off the internet to seeing how these spaghetti piping, we call them, where these pipes all go. And the Germans really weren't helpful, to be honest. It was COVID, and they wanted us to pay like a crazy amount of money to send someone over. They probably wouldn't even be able to get in the country with COVID, but and we couldn't afford it anyway. So they're like, well, good luck to you. Like no money for us. Okay, take care. And so we were basically stuck figuring things out on our own. Gable was helping us, and sadly, and this is just another just shocking thing to happen to us is, and I remember vividly, we had just finished installing the deck, and we're kind of getting ourselves ready to kind of at least get the place partially open to the public. And we're scurrying around, and Gable had been sick, not feeling well or whatnot, and but we were signing his full-time employment agreement with us, and we were on that deck sitting together, and it was I believe it was Friday. Came in Friday, he's all excited. We're gonna kick things off, and signed agreement. He's going to start here. Very excited. Monday was his day. And I got a text from Ralph on Monday morning, I believe it was, that he had passed away in the middle of the night. And it was the most gut punching, most horrible thing. He was young. He had a wife. He had two boys. And why does it have to happen to someone like this? Why? There's some nasty, angry people in our world, right? And they live forever. But it seems to be like the really good people die way too young. And no one to this day really knows too much about it. And he was complaining to us that day, like, I'm not feeling right. I'm coughing, something's up. And we're like, dude, relax. Why you don't worry about it. Like, you're not feeling well. Take care of yourself. It was like, what did you even think of us? Little did I know that would have been the last time I'd see him. So it's just, it's still a rough thing to go through. And I always think about like what would it be with him? He was just charismatic and just an amazing person. And I was excited for him personally to see him, grow out from his father. His father was an icon, and here he is. He could be another icon, right? And have this place as his. And so it's so shocking and rough to think of it that way. But so it was him. He was really helped guide us. We had to do a lot of the legwork, a lot of the heavy lifting and stuff like that. And which is, I'm thankful for that, because we learned from the ground up on how all this works. I did not, it was way above my pay grade. Let me say, way above my skill set. And same with Paul. And Paul, works now with our new chief distiller down there. They work hand in hand, and he can run the still himself, which is amazing. So he's down there doing his thing with our new chief distiller, Kieran Tompkins. But it was you can't even describe something like this happening. It just doesn't. It's shocking. It's just shocking.
Absolutely. And I guess we'll never quite know what influence Gable could have had on that, but he clearly had an influence on the ethos of the
His
place.
soul is there. His soul is there. We have a picture with him down in the lounge. I think you might have seen it, but
yes,
a picture of him on that well, he'll always be remembered. It is still his distillery.
Absolutely. And I guess it's hard to obviously follow that with a production question, but it is relevant there, which is, as you were starting and you're finally ready to start distilling. You've got the equipment in. Obviously, you're thinking you have your head distiller. Did you have an idea going in for what profile you wanted, what taste profile you wanted for the rye and the bourbon, and what you wanted it to represent from the locality?
Yeah, I think we're the big picture was now we launched Black Creek Bourbon and Black Creek Rye first before we went to the vodka. So we can go into I do want to touch on the vodka too, because I think you did say some interesting things about it. It is unlike any vodka you have ever had and anyone's ever had. And I taste for a living, and I was in the vodka business. And this is something that just blows my mind. I'll come back to that. But we wanted to launch with a bourbon and a rye because, as you know, these are exploding everywhere. Everyone seems to want a bourbon and rye. The prices are going through the roof, these limited batches. I mean, So we said, let's really get into this quicker. We partnered with the Finger Lakes Distillery, a great distillery in the Finger Lakes, and that was through Gable. Gable helped broach that, and we started working with them on barrels. Because we need to have aged barrels. We need to start curating these years prior, because obviously, as you know, time is not on your side in the whiskey business for any reason. And most new craft distilleries will come out with a vodka or a gin because they're unaged, and they'll be, waiting for their bourbon, waiting for their rise or whatever, and they'll apologize. I'm so sorry, it's coming, and we didn't want to do that. Just because everyone does something a certain way, I really don't care. We wanted to hit the ground running with a bourbon and a rye out the gate because we knew that was really where people wanted, truthfully. And then come back to the vodka because I knew the vodka, I knew how to do it. I knew we could kind of wrap back around and then add the gin as the final piece to our portfolio. And so we work with them, Brian McKenzie, amazing guy up there. And so he really helped us to refine things. Now, again, I'm a guy, I like to sip things. I like it neat on a rock. I like to really taste and let it sit with me to see how I feel, Then you can mix it or whatever you want, but and in doing so, I wanted something smooth. I want it easy to sip. I would say I'm not this little snobby person that says my whiskey has to be 92 and up or whatever it is, nonsense. I don't believe in that. I really liked an 85 to 90 proof level personally. I felt like a consumer, a regular consumer, women, men, feel more comfortable in your 85 to 90. And you could sip it. It's not burning your taste buds. When you have something that's hotter, typically, you're going to shock your taste buds. And when you shock your taste buds, and not everyone says, a sipper like yourself, who understands and does this for a living, but most people don't. And I think when they taste something and it like shocks them, like, whoa. And then they lose the ability to really taste what they're drinking. And I didn't want to lose that. I wanted them to not have that shock. I want to have them taste it like, whoa, oh, it's still whiskey, but maybe someone else be like, oh, it's still strong as a whiskey, but now I can have it in a cocktail because now I know what it tastes like. It's delicious. And that was our concept, to make it as smooth as possible. Now, how do you make it smooth? That is very difficult, right? There's a lot of products out there, a lot of shitty products. There's some good products. Everyone has a different format of what they do. It's across the gamut. It's everywhere. But we have a well on site, and we hired a hydrologist to study this well. So to understand what we had, because people were laughing at us. They're like, you're gonna have Hudson River water, you're screwed. And you know what? We would be in a lot of trouble if we're saying, oh, we're using Hudson River water. I think, you might even pause, David, if they say, wait, it's Hudson River water. Am I tasting? Am I okay?
Let's just take a pause on this one, just because. Yeah, the Hudson around the city, I wouldn't trust a damn thing. even today, where it's been cleaned up tremendously, and you can go kayaking and swimming in there apparently safely. I might do the kayak. I wouldn't swim in there, but I think in fairness, the region that you're in, being up about an hour and a half up the Hudson, it unfortunately gets that connotation from what the city's Hudson River is, but it's
much
lot
cleaner.
cleaner up there.
It's much cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the cleanliness of the reservoirs or of the well that you're getting, of course, but it's not it's not the George Carlin, we swam in the Hudson River and it stopped us from getting polio kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So so we hired a hydrologist to study this well, because we had no freaking clue. What the hell do we have? I have no idea. So but we learned something, shocking. This is almost shocking. We have it's an artesian well. And artesian wells mean that the pressure is so great underneath, it pushes the water naturally out of the ground without pumping it. That's tapped into a Catskill aquifer. Now, he was stunned. He didn't think the aquifer came out this far. We were like, huh? Well, I'm like, from living in New York City, I know Catskill water is piped to New York City. Like, what? How is this possible? This is the best water you could ever dream of. right, to use. You're the bagels, the pizza in New York City, it's all in this water. So we tested the water. We have naturally soft mineral water. It's called a sweet water. It is, we call it our holy water, truthfully, because it is a godsend to have this kind of water. It's almost like too good to be true. But we also have sulfur. And that was a gut punch because we're smelling rotten eggs. We're like, what the heck is this? Like, you have sulfur. Like, oh, of course we have sulfur. We have the best water ever, but we have sulfur, right? It's thank you, gods of the universe. And the
It's also a
hydrolysis.
little ironic if you think about it, have sulfur water coming out into a former monastery too.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Right. Yeah. It's you can't make this up. And so of course we're like, that's a gut punch, of course. And he laughed. He goes, well, listen, guys, it's a gas. It will let it off gas. Just let it sit. It'll off gas. So what we did was we pumped the water up, let it sit in holding tanks for about 3 or 4 days. The sulfur naturally will leave the water, and then we're left with this beautiful, sweet mineral water. That's what we're using, and that's what makes our stuff so different from whatever else is out there. What it does is it cuts the bite. Sweet water cuts that bite, and it accentuates the smells, the aromas, the tastes. It's just incredible. So we knew we had this water, and then that led us in working with Finger Lakes Distillery, the profile. We wanted a little bit of rye in our bourbon, but not too much. Have a little bit of a spice in there, adds a little bit of character. We have obviously using non-genetically modified corn. Non-GMO corn was important, so we want to use a larger percentage of corn. We end up using about 70% non-GMO corn for our bourbon. We have a 20% of our New York State rye, and then we round it off with 10% malted barley. So that's our mash bill for our bourbon. And then the rye, like you had mentioned, I like high ryes, but I also hate a lot of rye products. I hate them because many are peppery and spicy and they burn your face off. And they're aggressive. And I am not an aggressive drinker. I can't burning my face off. Maybe I'm getting too old, maybe, but I just can't. I can't do it. And I like to taste things. And so I was nervous about that. I was nervous about, well, maybe we should tone down this rye. And so when working with Brian from Finger Lakes, he was doing an Empire Rye, a true Empire Rye product, and using 80% rye, 20 malted barley, and he was having an incredible tasting rye. The rye was very smooth, which was shocking. So I was thinking, well, if he's getting that up there, I think it's going to be even better when we get it to our property and start using our water and utilizing that water. And it was just incredible to actually infuse our water and proof it down with our water. It really was a game changer on that front. And so that is really what has been helping us. And now what the future is, obviously we're now distilling. So now we're actually barreling our stuff. We're barreling, and we're obviously putting barrels away. What's going to happen very, very soon is we'll be starting to slowly blend our on-site bourbons and ryes with the stuff we're going to continue to produce up there and pull down to our place here. It's the only way you can do it. It's the only way we can do it with the amount of quality that we want with the product. It is what it is. Eventually, maybe we'll be able to be self-sufficient, but the way our growth is right now with the demand, I don't think we can. I think we're going to need help from other local distilleries that are going to really help put barrels away for us. We've been offered, multiple states and things like that, but like we just can't do it. Like, so we're selling out of everything, all these barrels, we're out of our rye. So we're about 2 weeks out from the new rye. So this is it's great, but it's a problem. It's something that we have to really start ramping up production, which we are. We're starting to hit our growth phase now. We're really starting to be known for our bourbons and our ryes. And we just actually won an award, Best Local Bourbon by Hudson Valley Magazine, which is amazing. That's huge. And it's voted on by people. So how cool is that to get these kind of accolades and awards? So we're excited. Black Creek is it's really special, and it's nice and it's hard. Usually with a craft distillery, you're proud of one product. Oh my God, this is us. Look at us. And then, sometimes the other spirits fall by the wayside. They're very hard to get all of them. I really believe because of our water, our holy water, we are blessed that it's made everything we're producing a little bit better, a little bit smoother, nicer to sip. on that front.
Yeah, I'm a full believer in that. I've said I don't particularly like California wines because California water is really not good.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I, I think we can get a little too zealous sometimes on the bagels and the pizza. Yes, they are great, but like they can be made well in other places. Then again, uh, very quick aside, there's a place in Florida that actually flies in New York water to make their
Come on.
bagels.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
and I swear to God, it's in the West Palm, Fort Lauderdale area, and I went to them just because I happened to be down there. My grandparents lived down there for many years, and I was like, "Are you guys really doing that?" And of course, they're like, "This is such an aside. That's such a New Yorker thing to hone in on." But like, on one hand, I'm proud, but on the other hand, it's like $4 for a bagel, and like,
Jeez.
yeah. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's a
Wow.
whole that can be a whole episode in itself.
Well, I
Um,
want to touch on Altair, because I think it's
yes,
important, and I know you mentioned it, and I know a lot of people are like, you know what, who gives a shit about another damn vodka? And I agree with them. I mean, honestly, Tito's has just taken over. I mean, really, everyone drinks Tito's, and you know, from the time from Star Vodka to now, I mean, the time is totally different. And you know, to launch a vodka to me is really tough to do. No one really cares unless you're so different and unique that you could stand out. And that is Altair. And we were nervous to actually even launch a vodka because we're like, you know, maybe go right to gin. You could be more creative. People are more open-minded to trying a different gin, right? But because of our water, we're like, you know, we have something unique. Let's figure this out. So we used, obviously similar to Star Vodka, start with a non-genetically modified corn, using non-GMO corn from a local farm in Saugerties, which is great locally. And we do 12 times distillation. So what we do is we want to make it ultra pure. Ultra pure. Most vodkas are probably between 2 and 5 times distilled. This is 12 times distilled, so it's a super, super premium. And then obviously infusing that our mineral water. What you're going to have is something so unique. The smell, the nose on it will smell more like a tequila or gin, right? It has this tequila floralness to it, which is shocking. How many people I've tasted on, they're like, this what? Are you sure this smells like tequila? It's incredible. And the taste is so smooth with, like you said, a little hint of sweetness. It's mild. It doesn't burn. It's so, I mean, it's shocking. You could sip that on a rock. You can even sip it room temperature. There's nothing like it. So, and Altair is one of the brightest night stars. So it's an evolution of star on the West Coast. Evolution of star, it means eagle. We have bald eagles in the property. So we wanted an evolution, means eagle. We have bald eagles. We have the bald copper eagle above the distillery my grandmother had given to me. So there's all these interesting synergies that we were in the property that made this. And it's funny because my sister-in-law found this word. We were trying to figure out what, you know, something with the sky and the universe. And at first I thought it was altar. And I was like, oh, altar vodka. And they're like, hey, cheese ball, we're not going to call it altar vodka, you know? So I was like, oh, it's Altair. And it's one of the brightest night stars. I'm like, oh, I like this. And my mind kind of really, I went on this huge tangent. Me personally, I'm just a very creative soul, and my mind kind of go when I get something that I like, I wander. And I thought like a night star in the old world, you would navigate the seas using stars. And we're on the water, we're on the Hudson River, and Henry Hudson probably was navigating, looking at stars, you know, as he's navigating. I mean, all the interesting synergies with our old 1850s manner. And then it means eagle. We have bald eagles in the property. I'm like, huh? It's almost like this is what it was meant to be called. You know, it's called Altair vodka. And I think, you know, you saw this with the tour, and it's something we bring out. We have an old doorknob with a face on it. It looks like a Viking face. And it was the doorknob that goes down to the distillery. You pass it to go to the distillery. And it is Zeus. And we've, you know, figured this all out. It's a picture of Zeus on this doorknob. And we found out this really a much further, maybe a year after Altair was even on the market. And maybe like 8 months, something like that. But Zeus, in ancient mythology, Altair was favored by Zeus. And there are stories with them. And it was like, what? We have literally a Dorno of Zeus. We called our product Altair. It means eagle. And there are literally stories, mythological stories where Altair has helped Zeus. I mean, I couldn't even make up a story as good as this. I mean, it's just shocking to me. So, yeah, it's a very special vodka. I mean, we're very proud of it. And that will lead into our gin, which will be this summer. And we're going to use Altair as the base. So it already has flavor. And we'll use some light juniper, and we're going to use some local botanicals, some citrus elements, some flowers, things like that, maybe some rose, lavender, things like that. So we're very close, but I will tell you this, and you probably know David better than I do. Gin is freaking hard. It is unlimited about what you can put in, how much of each you could put in. I mean, I am humbled by gin products because they're not mega sellers. So it's a passion spirit. It's a passion spirit. That's what it is. Whew. It's a tough one. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited.
It's one of those that you really do have such a blank canvas, because you either use a vodka or a grain neutral spirit as a base most of the time. And other than having juniper in it, and obviously, the 40% or above, those are the only requirements you have for gin.
Yeah.
Anything else can be put in. And then you get which roots and seeds do you put in the pot? What do you put in the condenser? What do you put in the little basket above it? If it's a flower or something that couldn't hold up to the maceration. Yeah, it's a lot of different things in there. And I do really enjoy gins. I think they go under the radar for whiskey drinkers and whiskey world, because in many ways if they're made right, pointing to some of the things you just said, if they're made right, they reflect the area that they come from. We're not really a heavy juniper kind of country when it comes to gin production. That's not the style. The London Dry style, that's super juniper heavy. The Beefeaters and Tanqueray style, we're not like that. We like a little bit of juniper, sweeter side rather than super savory. And also worth keeping in mind for gin that the Dutch, in creating Genever and gin, they put the juniper in there because the spirit was so awful they couldn't drink it otherwise. So a little juniper goes a long way. And but so sorry, I can't get rid of this cough.
No worries.
So in many ways, this is an unusual interview for me, because we're catching you. On one hand, yes, you've gone through several years, upwards of a decade at this point, of putting work into this property, of getting a distillery off the ground, all of the hospitality elements. But at the same time, you're also at a very early stage. You're moving to your own production. You're distilling on site relatively recently. Using your own. You've been using your own water since helping with Finger Lakes and such, but it's still a very new position. And normally, I end up talking to people about a decade in, when they've been producing for a decade or have a decade, whatever it is. So, in many ways, it's an opportunity for us to look forward and to say, all right, Hudson House Distillery is now on the map, producing your own ryes and bourbons and vodka, soon to be a gin as well. And I think the question that came to mind, which again I usually ask for people who've been doing this longer, I guess, is, given everything that you've had to put into this property and into this dream, into this idea, have you had time to think about what the legacy is going to be and what you want it to be?
You're getting heavy. I try to put myself, or like take myself out of myself and just see, like, what do we do? Like, it's funny, Paul and myself, sometimes we're like, look what we've done. It's like we kind of like pinch ourselves, because sometimes when you're so much in the weeds and you're just every day's a battle, and you're just, you're pushing, and you're doing all marketing, and you're expanding, and you're wholesaling, all these things going on, and it's hard to think about where you are in life and what you've accomplished, things like that. And then don't want to be like, patting ourselves in the back by any means. We have a long, long way to go. We've overcome enormous challenges, and I think some of the biggest challenges we've gotten past, thankfully, where we can kind of get down to what we need to do. But I think legacy for, I'm hoping this property is there for another 170 years. If I could ever ask something, it's a 170-year-old building, and it deserves another 170 in its new life, right? And so I think that'd be amazing. Obviously, I'll either be a cyborg or I'll be long gone. My kids, my daughter was there. My kids were there. My son and daughter were there this Sunday, and they were actually helping me work. My daughter is 7, and she had a little iPad. She was telling everyone the tour was ready, and she loved it. And she made a little sign saying the shop is open. And she was in this shop waiting for people to show up. She wanted to sell them bottles, which is just, it's just amazing to see them love this property as I do. My son was like, he's 4, but he's still tugging me, and they're listening to me, which I think helps them as growing, and growing up. And maybe they'll work there, maybe they'll run it, maybe they'll, Paul's got kids as well, and maybe they'll all want to be a part of it and keep it going. I mean, I think that'd be amazing to have this. We've just put so much of our heart and soul into it. It's just, it's nice to see people enjoy it, and it'd be great for our families to enjoy it. And for me, I'd love to have a little vacation once in a while. So maybe we have enough people helping us, they can help out. So I can take a little bit of a break, but we'll see. I mean, it's, I don't know, maybe this was meant to be. I don't know. It's just hard for me to understand how I'm here. It really is.
I believe it. And I am a big believer in, we figure out where we're meant to be and we end up where we're meant to be. And honestly, walking through and doing the tour and seeing all of these different elements, it's hard for even the most cynical person to say, all right, something's going on here. So I look forward to, visiting again. It is such a beautiful property. Plus the food was excellent. The cocktails were great. It's a fun place to go, and it's beautiful. You can go to farmers markets nearby. There's a lot to see and explore up the Hudson Valley and on both sides of the river. And I really encourage people go up to Hudson House, go up there weekday, weekend. You can find the hours on the website, which will be linked in the show notes as always, as well as social media. If they're popping up in a liquor store nearby you, or if they're having an event at the property, that'll also be in their social media feeds. And yeah, I mean, for now, I think we will say, let's see what's next. And I look forward to it. So Charles, thank you so much for coming on, talking to me about Hudson House Distillery and full property, not just the distillery. Hang on with me for just a second after we finish recording.
Thanks,
and
David.
This has been another episode of the Whiskering Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it. And I'm so glad we got to meet on site. It was awesome.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to do it. So thank you for listening. Like, rate, subscribe, share with your friends, and I will see you all next week. Hey folks, thanks for listening to another episode of the Whiskering Podcast. If you like what you hear, please go ahead and click that subscribe, follow, or like button. Leave a rating and review on your podcast app of choice, and let me know what you want to hear. You can reach out to me through the podcast apps or email me at david@whiskeymyweddingring.com with any suggestions or ideas for new show guests. You can also support the podcast at patreon.com/whiskeymyweddingring. That's whiskey with an E, for as little as $1 a month. $5 a month gets you access to bonus content, including our soon-to-resume Under the Influencer series, and $25 a month means you join the Barrel Share Club. Each month, Barrel Share Club members get to try products sent to me for review, bottles from my own collection, and sometimes bottles that I just pick up because they're fun or interesting. Right now, only 5 spots remain in the Barrel Share Club, so grab your place today. Finally, please follow on Instagram. You can follow me at Whiskey My Wedding Ring or at Whiskering Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Whiskey Ring. You can follow on Facebook at Whiskey in My Wedding Ring or join the Facebook group, the Whiskey Ringers Group. And I hope to see you there. Cheers, thank you for the support, and see you next time.